Welcome to Success Beyond Borders from Gulam, where every week we deep dive into interesting topics for people working at media and tech.
That's right.
And today we're plunging into something really fundamental, something that hits right at the core of business success, especially, in those really dynamic sectors like media, tech, SaaS.
Absolutely. We're talking about predictable revenue.
Exactly. Predictable revenue, not just like wishful thinking or keeping your fingers crossed. We mean getting to a point where you understand your revenue potential with real confidence.
Yeah, the kind of confidence that lets you make solid strategic decisions, drive investment, and actually scale sustainably.
Because that predictability, as the source material we're digging into today highlights, it's not just nice to have, it's described as the lifeblood of valuation.
hmm It's foundational for investor confidence, absolutely essential if you want to scale effectively. Without it, planning feels more like, well, gambling.
It really does. And yet here we are, swimming in data, right? More data than ever before. But
Yeah.
true revenue predictability, it still feels frustratingly out of reach for so many companies.
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah. Why does forecasting still feel like guesswork sometimes? Like trying to read tea leaves? If you listening have ever been part of a team or a whole company that got completely blindsided by a big forecast miss,
Oh, yeah.
you know that feeling, that confusion, that frustration? You had the dashboards, maybe they were even glowing green,
Uh-huh.
but then reality just took a sharp left turn.
And that disconnect, that gap between having tons of data
Yeah?
and still missing forecasts badly, that's exactly what this insightful piece from Gulling Gulam tackles head on.
So we're going to use that in Gulam Piece as our guide today. We'll dissect the arguments they're making.
Yep. Why the old ways are falling short, what this new signal-based approach, powered by AI actually looks like.
And why this isn't just about new tech. It's a bigger shift, right?
You're
Some
right
mental
there.
transformation with pretty profound implications, especially for companies in media, tech, and similar fields. So our mission here today in this deep dive is to really unpack those key ideas from the Ungulum source. We want to give you a shortcut, really, to understanding this critical shift.
Moving away from just relying on assumptions and, frankly, hope,
Yeah, hope-driven forecast.
towards actually knowing what's happening, what's likely coming next, based on the most reliable truth source there is.
Which isn't necessarily what we've always thought it was.
Okay, so let's dive in. The Ungulum piece kicks off with a really potent story, an anecdote, to show just how real and honestly damaging this problem of unpredictable forecasts can be.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about this high-flying B2B SaaS unicorn. So picture this company. They've raised a ton of capital, growing super fast, lots of market buzz.
The dream scenario, basically.
Totally. High expectations internally. Everyone's excited about hitting the numbers.
They've got the resources, they've got the momentum, seems like they've got product market fit.
Absolutely. And crucially, they thought they had the data side locked down. The source makes a point of saying this wasn't some, casual operation.
Right, not back of the napkin stuff.
No, they'd invested heavily in their CRM system. The setup described is one where the CRM was used meticulously, supposedly capturing, and I'm quoting loosely here, every lead, every call log, every email, every step along the pipeline.
So very thorough data entry culture.
That's the picture painted.
Yeah.
And if you looked at their dashboards, the source says they were glowing green, showing healthy conversion rates, deals moving faster, big deal sizes. Everything looked great on paper.
So according to all the traditional metrics, they were crushing it. Leadership's looking at these reports, feeling good. Sales leaders are giving positive forecasts.
Exactly. Based on the data they were diligently putting into this system, the system they'd invested in, the outlook was strong, maybe even ahead of plan. There was really nothing in that data to suggest a major problem was brewing.
They had the data, and the data looked good.
Yeah.
But there's always a but in these stories, isn't there? This is where the million-dollar miss comes crashing in.
That's right. The punchline, the shocking outcome, was that when the quarter actually ended, the reality was completely different. Dramatically different.
Uh-oh.
Instead of hitting those projections, they faced a glaring shortfall, a massive, unexpected revenue miss. The source uses language like it rattled the entire organization. This wasn't a small miss, it was huge,
Yeah.
blindsiding.
And nobody saw it coming. The sales team, leadership, the C-suite.
Complete surprise. How could this happen? Market's good, product's strong, team's talented.
Yeah.
And they were so careful with the CRM updates. The source specifically notes the CRM was meticulously maintained, following all the best practices.
So that's the core paradox, isn't it? That's what the Ungulum piece really drills down on.
Exactly. How could a company swimming in data, having invested so much in tracking everything in their CRM, with a team diligently entering that data, how could they still miss their forecast by that much?
How could they seem to have such a clear view but actually be flying blind?
It points to something fundamentally flawed, doesn't it? Flawed in what they were measuring or maybe how they were interpreting it.
And I bet this scenario, maybe not the million-dollar scale for everyone, but that feeling of disconnect that resonates with a lot of you listening.
Oh, absolutely.
That feeling of looking at your pipeline dashboard, things look okay, maybe even good, and then boom, quarter end comes, and reality serves up a nasty surprise. You thought you had the data, you tracked the deals, but you still got hit.
Precisely, and the source is clear. This isn't just about one unlucky unicorn, this kind of thing. It's described as a widespread frustration across B2B sectors, including SaaS, media, and tech.
Right, it's systemic, not just one company messing up.
Companies everywhere, even after spending millions on sales, tech, and reporting, are still grappling with this basic uncertainty.
Yeah, the piece mentions this kind of lingering mistrust of pipeline forecasts. It just persists, even with better tools. Leaders look at the numbers, but deep down, they're maybe not fully buying it.
And the Angoulême analysis argues that this widespread frustration, this mistrust, it comes from a really deep-seated, flawed assumption. The assumption that underpins, traditional revenue management.
Which is?
The core assumption is that more data in the CRM captured by sales reps automatically equals more certainty about future revenue.
Just pump more data in, get reps to log everything, and magically the crystal ball gets clearer.
That's the belief. And the piece specifically critiques that almost cultural adherence to what it calls the Salesforce mantra, or similar ideas.
You mean the classic, if it's not in Salesforce, it didn't happen.
Exactly that one. It's like an article of faith in so many sales orgs. The CRM becomes the be-all and end-all, the single source of truth.
And CRMs are valuable, right? For workflow, tasks, history.
Oh, undeniably useful for those things. Workflow management, task tracking, historical records, basic reporting, great. But the source argues they are fatally limited when your goal is predicting future revenue with high accuracy.
Fatally limited. Strong words again. What's the fatal flaw?
At its heart, the limitation stems from the fact that the data in a CRM is primarily entered and interpreted by humans, the sales reps themselves. And that introduces all sorts of things. Human subjectivity, as the source calls it, erratic data entry. Reps don't always update things instantly or consistently.
Sure, they're busy selling.
Right. And then there's the natural wishful thinking that inevitably creeps into any sales org's numbers, optimism bias.
Okay. So the CRM isn't really capturing objective reality. It's capturing a sales rep's interpretation of reality, filtered through their own goals, their pressures, maybe their optimism about a deal.
You got it. A rep might have a good conversation, feel positive, and move the deal stage forward in the CRM. That's their subjective assessment.
Even if the customer hasn't actually done anything concrete, like signed something or started using a key feature to back that up.
Precisely. The data, as the source puts it, only tells the real truth if it's captured completely and without bias. And manual entry done by people who are incentivized to close deals and often naturally optimistic. Well, it just fundamentally struggles to meet that standard.
So you're not getting a direct feed of customer reality. You're getting a filtered, maybe incomplete, often overly positive version.
Think about the difference. A rep logs. Customer seemed interested. Okay, versus knowing. Customer downloaded the detailed technical spec sheet, shared it with 2 colleagues via email integration, and spent 30 minutes on the pricing page.
Okay, yeah. One is interpretation, the other is concrete, observable behavior. Much harder to argue with.
Exactly. The behavior is objective.
So if the CRM, relying on human input, is fatally limited for prediction, where do we look? Where's the real source of truth? This is where the Angoulême piece flips the script, right?
It really does. It introduces a fundamentally different mindset, a genuinely disruptive idea that challenges that whole CRM-centric view. They propose a counter mantra. If AI didn't capture it, it didn't happen.
Whoa. Okay, that completely shifts the focus. It's saying, trust the technology capturing actual customer actions, not the human logging their interpretation of those actions or conversations about them.
Precisely. The core argument becomes, in today's world, especially in digital-first interactions, the real source of truth about future revenue isn't the system where reps log activity.
It's the customer.
It's the customer themselves. Specifically, their observable behaviors, their digital footprints.
How do those actions become the source of truth? What are we talking about specifically?
We're talking about what the source calls signals. They define signals as these granular, verifiable customer actions. Things like every click, download, trial activation, product login, or support request.
Ah, the digital breadcrumbs they leave behind.
Exactly. The source calls them clues to future intent. They're objective, often time-stamped records of actual engagement and interest, or lack thereof.
So instead of relying on a rep's summary notes in a CRM field, had a good call, demo went well. You're looking at concrete stuff. Did they actually click the link to the case study you sent? Did they activate that advanced feature in the trial? How many times did they log into the platform this week versus last month?
Yes, that's the fundamental shift. These signals provide verifiable evidence. Evidence that can either confirm or contradict what the sales rep logged in the CRM.
Give me an example.
Okay, so a rep logs a deal as late-stage negotiation. Seems positive in the CRM. But the signal data shows the primary contact hasn't logged into the product trial in 2 weeks and hasn't opened the last 3 emails.
Ah, the signals are screaming risk, even if the CRM stage looks good.
Exactly. The signal contradicts the logged stage, giving you a crucial early warning. And importantly, the source notes that these vital signals often happen in ways that never make it into a spreadsheet or a standard CRM field.
Like what?
Like a customer downloading a very specific how-to guide from your knowledge base, or filing a support ticket asking about data migration paths. These are strong behavioral signals of intent, not just summarized conversations.
Okay, that makes sense. But these signals, they aren't all conveniently located in one place, are they? That click is in the marketing automation system, the login is in the product analytics, the support ticket is in Zendesk.
Bingo. And that's the huge challenge. The source identifies the scattering problem. These absolutely critical customer signals, they're fragmented, scattered across marketing platforms like HubSpot or Marketo, support systems like Zendesk or Intercom, product analytics tools like Pendo or Mixpanel, and conversation intelligence tools like Gong or Chorus.
So all the pieces of the puzzle are technically there. The clips, the logins, the help requests, but they're spread out all over the place, making it basically impossible for a human or even a standard dashboard pulling from just 1 or 2 sources to see the whole picture in real time.
Right. You can't connect the dots manually at scale or speed, which means even companies that think they're data rich are often missing these critical leading indicators of intent and health because they're buried in different system silos, invisible to the traditional CRM forecast.
Which is where AI comes in. This is why AI is essential to make this signal-based approach work.
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
AI changes the game because it has the power to overcome that scattering problem, to make sense of all that disparate noise. Its role, as the source puts it, is listening, interpreting, and acting upon these multidimensional signals in near real time.
How does AI do that differently than, say, just building fancier dashboards that try to pull data from multiple places?
It's about the automated, intelligent ingestion and the sophisticated interpretation. Instead of relying on people to manually run reports or build complex, often brittle, data integrations.
Which always seem to break.
Right. AI, on the other hand, automatically ingests the behavioral footprints customers leave across all these different systems. It pulls in website visit data, specific feature usage within the product, the actual content and sentiment from call transcripts via tools like Gong, email response patterns, support ticket content.
So it's constantly hoovering up the raw, unbiased data of what customers are actually doing?
Exactly, as it happens. And then comes the crucial part, interpretation. It doesn't just collect the data, it transforms them into pragmatic insights.
Okay, but insights about what? Just summarizing past behavior?
No, and this is key. The source emphasizes AI here isn't only diagnosing what has happened, looking backward, it's actively predicting what will happen.
Wow.
By analyzing these signals in context, comparing them against historic patterns, what did previous customers who ended up buying or churning do? It looks at sentiment analysis from communications. It tracks ongoing user behavior for meaningful changes, shifts that indicate changing intent.
So it's taking current actions, comparing them to learned patterns from the past, and calculating the likelihood of a future outcome, like a deal closing or an account renewing or maybe even churning.
Precisely. And that proactive, predictive capability is what fundamentally closes the gap between the illusions of a single re-rendered pipeline and the reality of customers' actual buying journeys.
You're moving beyond just tracking where a rep thinks a deal is, to looking at the hard evidence, the verifiable customer behaviors. the signals that either back that up or raise a red flag, giving you a much more accurate, forward-looking view of what's genuinely likely to occur.
Yeah, the AI is essentially reading the customer's digital body language to understand their true direction and momentum.
That sounds like a much, much more solid foundation for forecasting, certainly for new business. But the source also points out that this AI-driven approach, this focus on signals, isn't just for the left side of the sales process, right? Not just for landing new logos.
That's a really key insight in the piece, and arguably, the source suggests it might be even more important on the right side of the sales process.
The right side being?
The post-sale world. Everything that happens after the initial deal closes. Onboarding, adoption, retention, and renewal.
Okay, why is focusing AI and signals there so critical?
Because, as the source highlights, expansion revenue, that's your upsells, cross-sells, growing revenue from existing customers, can be one of the most potent levers for sustainable growth.
Right. It's usually cheaper and faster to grow existing accounts than acquire new ones.
Significantly.
Yeah.
Yet, many companies, even those meticulously tracking their new business pipeline, kind of often neglect this post-sale phase when it comes to rigorous, data-driven forecasting and management.
How so?
They might track renewal dates manually, rely heavily on the account manager's gut feeling about account health. They're not systematically mining signals for risks and opportunities post-sale. And they're potentially missing huge upsides and downsides.
So a company might have a decent grip on their new business forecast, but their prediction for revenue coming from the existing customer base, including both growth and potential churn, is much, much fuzzier.
That's often the case. And this is where AI, especially its knack for handling unstructured data, brings enormous value. It helps interpret and sometimes even anticipate insights from places like unstructured data from support tickets or feedback channels.
Okay, unstructured data, like the actual text and support conversations or comments on feedback surveys.
Exactly. Think about the sheer volume of information locked away in support chat logs, emails with customer success, feature requests submitted, qualitative feedback. Humans just can't process all of that effectively at scale.
But AI can sift through it all and find patterns that signal future revenue events.
Yes. You can run sentiment analysis on support interactions. Is this customer getting increasingly frustrated? It can identify recurring themes and feedback, lots of people asking for feature X. It can detect patterns and feature requests. This interpreted data helps reveal where organizational impact is already seated within your current customers.
Give me an example of that.
Okay, say the AI notices a cluster of support tickets from users at one company, all asking advanced questions about a particular premium feature set. That's a strong signal. It might indicate they're pushing the limits of their current plan and are ready, or soon will be ready, to upgrade. The AI flags this, offering a direct path to upsells or renewals that might not be obvious just by looking at their contract end date in the CRM.
So the AI could actually flag an account as like high potential for upsell based on their real usage and support behavior, maybe even before the account manager has consciously identified that opportunity.
Absolutely. It gets you beyond just broad guesses about account health or renewal probability. It provides high-fidelity insight, as the source puts it, into where today's engagement and behavior can inform and even guarantee tomorrow's revenue. It's about proactively spotting and nurturing that growth potential across the entire customer lifecycle.
This whole signal-based approach, powered by AI, it feels particularly relevant for the specific industries the source mentions: SaaS, tech, media, and entertainment.
It really is. The source explicitly says capturing and interpreting these scattered signals is especially critical in these sectors.
Why? What's unique there?
Because customer behavior or audience behavior in media can be incredibly fluid and localized. Things change fast. What resonates in one market segment or with one user cohort might totally bomb in another.
Okay, so what kind of specific complexities make that granular signal capture so vital in, say, media or tech?
Well, the source points to things like needing local user-based insights in media, understanding engagement patterns deeply, not just nationally, but city by city or by demographic, or specific content preferences. What specific articles, shows, or features are users actually consuming and spending time with? Even engagement timing. When are users most active? Does it vary by region? These nuances are the signals.
And if you miss those signals...
You miss opportunities or you don't see risks coming.
Yeah.
These details, the source says, can fuel unique expansions or hamper deals if left unchecked. Think about a SaaS product, seeing a sudden surge in adoption and positive feedback signals from users in, say, France. That's a powerful signal suggesting potential for a more focused expansion effort there, maybe localized marketing or support. You wouldn't get that just looking at your global growth rate.
Right. Or in media, knowing that a specific user group in Austin is heavily engaging with tech-related content late at night. That's a much more valuable signal for ad targeting or subscription offers than just knowing you have X number of users in Texas.
Exactly. The source ties this directly to the idea that global reach and localized strategies have to go hand in hand today. You need a global platform, sure, but you need to understand the local nuances to succeed.
And AI's ability to pull together and make sense of all those varied signals from different platforms, content types, locations.
That capacity to unify and interpret varied signals is what makes the difference between operational blind spots and well-informed decisions. Without it, you're trying to manage a complex, often global business with a blurry, averaged-out view.
And they also mentioned this applies strongly to geographic expansion, too.
Yes, absolutely. Launching into a new country or region. The source says it demands a nuanced, signal-based approach. You can't just copy-paste your forecast model from your home market.
Why not?
Because local behaviors might be totally different. You need to capture signals specific to that new territory. Which features are gaining traction first? What marketing messages are getting clicks? What are the common support issues popping up? Relying only on a standard CRM pipeline without incorporating these local behavioral signals, well, the source implies you're essentially driving blind in that new market, setting yourself up for another potential million-dollar miss.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, the real core message here, the key revelation from this Ngulam source, seems to be a fundamental shift in thinking about where predictable revenue actually comes from.
It is, and the source calls it as straightforward as it is disruptive. The big idea, the key revelation is this. Predictable revenue doesn't spring from meticulously curated CRM entries.
No matter how well maintained.
Right. It emerges when you systematically harness authentic customer signals at scale. It's a pivot. From managing the inputs, what reps log, to interpreting the outputs, what customers do.
So the path to predictability isn't about getting reps to log even more stuff or log it perfectly in the CRM.
No.
It's about fundamentally shifting your source of truth, trusting the verifiable action the customers are taking, mostly outside the CRM.
Precisely. Think about the contrast painted in the source. Traditional pipelines, built largely on internal assumptions, educated guesses by reps, reported progress. It's about what the sales team hopes or believes will happen.
Okay.
AI-fueled pipelines, powered by signals. They tap directly into external truths of what the customer is actually doing, their real behavior. And because of that crucial difference, these signal-based systems can often uncover deal risk and expansion opportunities far earlier than a system just relying on what humans type in.
It's almost like the AI is listening directly to the customer's digital body language.
That's a great way to put it.
And it bypasses any potential filter, bias, or even just delay from the manual data entry step.
That's the core idea. Instead of simply documenting what a sales rep hopes to happen, based on maybe some meeting notes, AI listens to what the customer is really doing and acts on that reality. Their clicks, their logins, their downloads, their support interactions, all of it.
And this is where the source mentions more advanced platforms, going beyond just identifying signals, things like growth guidance systems and prescriptive AI.
Exactly. These sound like the next level. They don't just show you the signals, they actively use those signals to guide your actions.
Okay, how so? What do they do?
They're capable of much more than basic reporting. They can model growth trajectories with far tighter confidence intervals. The source even floats an example like achieving 5% accuracy on forecasts.
Wow, plus or minus 5%. That's incredibly precise compared to traditional forecasting, which can often be off by 20, 30% or more.
Right. That level of accuracy, knowing your forecast is likely to land within that tight a band, that fundamentally changes how you can plan and run the business.
And these systems don't just model, they actually tell you what to do.
Yes, that's the prescriptive part. Based on the patterns the AI detects in customer signals and its predictive modeling, these systems automatically suggest interventions. This is the AI prompting action based on the reality it's seeing.
Like what kind of interventions?
Could be things like escalating deals that show early warning signs. Maybe a deal where the customer's engagement signals, logins, email responses have suddenly dropped off a cliff, even though the CRM stage is still late. The AI sees that pattern, stall plus late stage, and flags it, maybe sending an alert or recommending specific outreach to the sales leader or rep.
Okay, so it spots the risk and suggests action. What else?
Or it might suggest the best way, or even the best time, to engage with a prospect or customer. Based on analyzing past interactions that worked and the customer's current behavior, the AI could say, recommend outreach Tuesday morning, or tailor the message around feature Y as they've explored related documentation.
Personalized guidance based on real-time behavior.
Exactly. And critically, especially for that right-side revenue we talked about, it can pinpoint expansion-ready accounts well before end-of-term discussions.
How?
If the AI sees an existing customer is suddenly ramping up their usage of a specific advanced feature set, or their users are accessing documentation related to an upgrade path, that's a huge signal. It suggests they might be ready for a bigger package now, not just when their contract is up for renewal in 6 months.
So you're not just waiting passively for the renewal cycle, you're proactively identifying and acting on these growth opportunities the moment they start bubbling up in the customer's behavior.
Precisely. And the source makes the point that by leveraging these systems, acting on these data-driven prescriptions, you're not just trying to predict the future anymore. You're actively reshaping your revenue future in near real time. You're influencing the outcomes by making timely, informed interventions, all guided by those customer signals.
This really does feel like a necessary evolution, doesn't it? Especially in these fast-moving tech and media landscapes. And the source really drives home why embracing this shift matters so much for, the people at the top, executives and investors.
It does. The message to the C-suite CEOs, CROs, CFOs, and also to PE backers who are laser-focused on performance and maximizing valuation.
Yeah.
The message is pretty clear and urgent.
Which is?
That failing to adopt this kind of AI-powered, signal-based approach, it means you're basically forfeiting a level of predictability that's increasingly becoming table stakes.
Table stakes, meaning it's not just a nice-to-have competitive hedge anymore, it's becoming the minimum standard.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
It's rapidly becoming the expectation for running an efficient, scalable, modern growth engine. If you're not doing it, you're falling behind.
And what happens if companies just stick to the old ways? The CRM-centric manual entry forecast model.
Well, the source spells out the negative consequences pretty clearly. Sticking with outdated methods perpetuates a cycle of murky forecasts. Because as we discussed, you just can't fully trust the data.
Right.
And murky forecasts lead to misguided budget allocations. You're making spending decisions based on unreliable projections.
Which is risky.
Very. And critically, it leads to missed growth windows. You're just not spotting the real opportunities or the real risks in time to act effectively. The source also explicitly calls out ignoring the enormous upside of expansion revenue by not using data to systematically find and nurture growth within your existing customer base.
So it's not just about potentially missing your quarterly number. It has ripple effects on strategic planning, resource allocation, and ultimately the company's overall ability to grow efficiently and keep growing.
Exactly. Whereas on the flip side, the companies that do make this pivot, that embrace this proactive AI-first approach built on signals, they gain tangible competitive advantages. They can plan with more confidence, invest resources more intelligently, react much faster to shifts in customer behavior or market dynamics, and capture those revenue opportunities, new business or expansion that their slower competitors might miss entirely.
Okay, the source actually lists several specific tangible benefits of moving to this AI-first, signal-driven world. Let's maybe walk through those.
Sure. The first one is probably the most obvious and direct: sharper forecast accuracy.
Makes sense.
When you're consistently capturing and interpreting these authentic customer signals, the source says plan achievability can be gauged far more precisely. You have a data-backed, reality-based understanding of customer intent and momentum. It takes a lot of the guesswork out.
And that precision.
It boosts confidence for both executive teams and investors in hitting revenue targets. Instead of dealing with those huge forecast ranges, you get a much tighter or reliable projection you can actually stand behind.
That confidence alone must be incredibly valuable for internal planning, external communication, everything. What's next?
Second benefit: higher conversion rates and faster sales cycles.
How does that work?
It flows directly from that early detection capability we talked about. Using signals lets you identify strong buying intent or risk much, much earlier than traditional methods typically allow.
So you know where to focus.
Right. You can trigger more immediate data-informed interventions. Sales reps get clearer guidance on who to prioritize, when to engage them, and even what to talk about based on what the customer's recent behavior signals about their needs or concerns. It makes every interaction potentially more relevant and effective.
So less time wasted chasing deals that look good in the CRM but have zero real engagement signals.
Exactly.
And more time focused on closing the deals that are showing genuine active buying behavior. Makes sense.
You're not just following a generic process, you're reacting to what their actions are telling you they need right now.
Okay, what's the third benefit?
Better net revenue retention, NRR. This is huge, especially in SaaS and subscription businesses.
Definitely a critical metric.
By using AI to really focus on post-sale behavior and sentiment, you gain deep visibility into customer health after they sign the initial contract. This lets organizations proactively seize growth potential from existing customers by identifying those upsell or cross-sell opportunities based on actual usage patterns and engagement signals, or spotting areas where they might need more support to get value, preventing churn. It helps you grow revenue from your existing base rather than relying solely on top-of-funnel leads all the time.
So you're building a more sustainable growth engine fueled by successful existing customers.
That's the idea. And of course, spotting potential churn risks early is a huge part of protecting NRR too.
Right. If the AI detects negative signals like a sharp drop in usage, maybe a spike in support tickets about a specific problem, negative sentiment picked up in communications, it can flag that risk way before the customer just goes dark or formally says they're leaving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Giving customer success or account management a chance to intervene proactively and try to turn things around, that directly protects NRR.
Okay. And the final benefit listed in the source.
Scalable efficiency. This is about working smarter.
How so?
When you have these high-fidelity insights from AI and signals, you know much more precisely where your limited resources, sales time, marketing spend, customer success efforts will have the biggest impact. You can redeploy resources for maximum impact, as the source puts it, without having to continually add headcount to sustain growth.
So you get more leverage from your existing team.
Exactly. You're focusing people's efforts on the opportunities, those deals showing strong positive signals, those existing accounts clearly ready for expansion. And the risks, deals going cold, customers showing churn indicators that the data tells you are most critical right now. Less wasted effort, more impactful action.
Those are definitely four very compelling benefits. Sharper accuracy, faster cycles, better retention, scalable efficiency. They all hit directly on major business goals. But the source is careful to point out, achieving this isn't just like buying some new software off the shelf and plugging it in, is it?
No, absolutely not. And this is a really, really critical point the Angulam piece emphasizes, making this transition to a signal-driven, AI-first revenue operation. It has profound strategic and operational implications. It's a much deeper change than just adding another tool to your tech stack.
What does that mean practically for a company trying to do this?
It means it really requires rethinking the entire go-to-market architecture. That includes your strategy, your processes, and your people. You need to figure out how to integrate AI seamlessly into all of it.
So the insights from the AI can't just live in a dashboard somewhere.
Right. They need to actually flow into the daily sales process, inform how marketing targets campaigns, guide how customer success interacts with accounts, and be actively used by leadership for planning and coaching. It can't be siloed. It needs to be embedded in how the business actually operates.
Which implies that just rolling out the technology without also changing the organization and processes around it probably won't work well.
The source is very direct about that risk. They warn about partial implementation, stating that rolling out the tech piecemeal without also tackling organizational readiness or sales leadership alignment usually leads to half-baked results.
Half-baked results, meaning?
The AI might be generating brilliant insights, but if the sales team's comp plan doesn't reward acting on them, or if the sales process isn't adapted to incorporate them, or if sales managers don't trust the AI's recommendations over their own gut feel, those brilliant insights just go nowhere. They don't translate into better outcomes.
So you need the people and the processes to evolve alongside the technology. You can't just bolt it on.
Exactly. Which highlights the need for a specific kind of expertise to manage this kind of change successfully.
What kind of expertise?
The source talks about needing targeted expertise. And it's not just technical chops. It's operational and strategic know-how. It's about understanding how to diagnose systemic bottlenecks in the current way of doing things, how to effectively redesign processes so AI insights actually get used, and how to truly embed AI insights into the day-to-day workflows of the GTM teams.
So someone who understands both the tech potential and the realities of sales and marketing operations.
Yes, without that kind of guidance, the source suggests companies really struggle to connect the dots between buying the cool new AI tool and actually seeing improvements in forecast accuracy, or NRR.
They also introduced an interesting phrase, GTM debt. What's that about?
Yeah, the idea of intangible GTM debt is basically the accumulating cost not just in money, but in lost efficiency, missed opportunities, frustration that builds up when your manual methods outlive their usefulness.
So sticking with old human-dependent ways of forecasting or managing pipeline, when there's a clearly better signal-driven way available, that actually creates a drag on the organization.
Exactly. It slows things down, introduces errors and biases, makes it harder to scale efficiently. Adopting AI to leverage signals is presented as a way to start paying down that accumulated GTM debt by replacing those inefficient manual tasks with automated, data-driven processes.
And leadership has a big role to play in making sure this kind of significant transformation actually takes root.
Absolutely critical. The source specifically mentions that an experienced fractional sales leader can be the linchpin for driving adoption.
Why fractional? Or why experienced?
Well, experienced because they've seen different GTM models. They understand the change management involved. Fractional, perhaps, because sometimes bringing in that outside perspective specifically for the transformation can be effective. But the key is having someone with the credibility and authority to really champion the use of AI insights on the front lines.
Someone who can show the sales team why these insights are valuable, integrate them into coaching and deal reviews, and make sure they become integral to every deal cycle, not just some side report people ignore.
Precisely. It takes strong, committed leadership to drive the necessary cultural shifts and process changes. It's not just adopting tech. It's adopting a fundamentally new, more data-driven way of operating across the whole go-to-market function.
So it really brings us, and anyone listening, to a pretty clear choice, right? Framed very directly by the source material.
Yeah, it boils down to a core decision point for businesses today, especially in these sectors.
Mhm.
Are you still driving blind or reading the signals?
Yeah, that contrast really says it all. Option one, keep driving blind. Keep allowing those outdated processes to mask real buying patterns behind a veil of hope-driven forecasts. Keep relying on incomplete, subjective data, crossing your fingers that your assumptions are right.
And knowing, deep down, you're probably going to get blindsided again sooner or later.
Yeah. Or option two, start reading the signals. Start leveraging AI to glean early warnings, the good and the bad. Start proactively shaping pipeline health by intervening based on actual data, not just gut feel. Start pinpointing where expansions are likely to accelerate growth within your existing customers.
It's about choosing to navigate based on the objective reality of customer behavior, not internal assumptions.
Now, the source is realistic. It acknowledges that making this shift, changing both culture and technology, it's not trivial. It's a heavy lift for any organization.
But they immediately follow that up by saying, neither is the payoff. The effort required for the transformation is significant, but so are the potential gains on the other side in predictability, efficiency, sustainable growth. The potential reward justifies the effort.
So if you're sitting there listening and you're convinced that reading the signals is the way to go, where do you even start? What does adopting this approach actually look like in practice?
Well, it really begins with truly adopting that core mentality we talked about earlier. If AI didn't capture it, it didn't happen. That needs to become more than just a slogan. It has to be a guiding principle for the organization, prioritizing the capture and use of these authentic customer signals.
Okay, adopt the mindset. Then what?
Then you need to put the operational structure in place to actually support that mindset. The source talks about ensuring the right pilot frameworks, KPIs, and monitoring structures are in place.
Pilot frameworks, like testing it out first.
Yeah, you probably don't try to change everything overnight. Start by testing this signal-driven approach in a specific area, maybe for a particular product line or a segment of the sales team. Define clear key performance indicators, KPIs, to measure the impact, things like forecast accuracy improvement, changes in conversion rates, impact on NRR for that pilot group.
And monitoring structures.
Building the reporting and dashboards that make these new signal-driven insights visible and, crucially, actionable for the teams involved and for leadership. People need to see the data and understand how to use it.
And doing this allows organizations to finally move beyond just approximations.
Exactly. The goal is to move from guesswork to guidance, from making critical decisions based on gut feel, anecdotal evidence, or incomplete CRM reports, to making them based on predictive insights derived directly from real customer behavior. It's about getting away from those limiting CRM-focused approximations, as the source calls them, and stepping into a realm of revenue strategy that captures genuine customer footprints.
Basing your most important plans, hiring, investment, product roadmap, on the solid ground of how customers are actually engaging with you.
That's the aim. Now, the source also adds a dose of realism here, noting that unlocking these really significant gains doesn't happen overnight, and that many companies, especially larger enterprises, often find they need some outside perspective to navigate the complexity involved.
Because making these deep systemic changes, diagnosing the real bottlenecks, redesigning core processes, getting buy-in across different teams, it's hard to do from the inside sometimes.
It can be. Having external expertise, folks who've guided other companies through similar transformations, can be really valuable. The piece does mention that Ingram's own approaches are designed to help with exactly this, aligning the overall GTM strategy, embedding these AI-driven insights into practical processes, and optimizing the whole pipeline based on predictive signals. It's about having a partner who gets both the technology and the necessary organizational change management.
Okay. And for companies that successfully navigate this transformation, that truly embrace this signal-driven, AI-powered revenue operation, what's the ultimate prize? What's the payoff?
The source sums it up very clearly, and I think compellingly. The payoff is achieving a more predictable, more confident, and ultimately more profitable future.
Predictable, confident, profitable. Let's break that down.
Predictable, because you finally have a much clearer reality-based understanding of what's likely coming down the pike. Confident, because your strategic plans, your budgets, your commitments to the board or investors are built on much more reliable data, not just hope. And profitable, because you're operating more efficiently. Less wasted effort, faster cycles, better retention, and you're capturing more of the growth opportunities available to you.
It really is fascinating when you frame it like that, how fundamentally shifting your focus from looking inward at internal reports to looking outward at external customer behavior, all enabled by AI, can have such a profound impact on something as core as revenue predictability and a company's growth path.
It really elevates the whole idea of revenue forecasting, doesn't it? From being potentially just an administrative chore or a constant source of anxiety to becoming a core strategic capability, a way to gain a genuine competitive edge by leveraging the data your customers are already generating, making smarter, faster, more effective decisions based on it.
So, the path to truly predictable growth, as this Angoulême source really hammers home, it lies in how seriously you take the signals your customers are broadcasting.
And how effectively you turn that data into timely, decisive action. It's not just about having the signals, it's about acting on them.
It definitely makes you stop and think about your own organization, doesn't it? Are you really capturing those authentic customer signals, the real clues about their intent, their health, their direction?
Or are you still mostly relying on those internal reports, the CRM updates, that might inadvertently or not be masking the underlying reality?
Yeah, it forces you to ask that tough question. Are you truly capturing the authentic signals your customers are sending right now? Or are you maybe still navigating primarily by those dashboard lights of hope and assumption? Just kind of waiting to get blindsided again.
A really critical question, I think, for any leader who's serious about building sustainable, confident growth, especially in today's incredibly complex, data-rich, but signal-noisy world of media, tech, and SaaS.
Well, that brings us toward the end of this deep dive, really digging into rethinking revenue predictability by harnessing customer signals with AI, guided by the insights from Angoulême. It's a powerful concept, for sure.
Definitely. With really tangible benefits for companies that are willing and able to make that transformation.
It really highlights how much valuable information about future growth and future risks is already out there, isn't it? Often scattered across our own systems.
Yeah, just waiting for something like AI to pull it all together, make sense of it, and turn it into intelligence we can actually use.
Absolutely. Well, we hope this discussion has given all of you listening some valuable food for thought, maybe clarifying why those traditional forecasting methods often fall short, and illuminating the potential of this AI-first, signal-driven approach.
It's certainly a significant shift, maybe even a challenge, but the source suggests there's a clear path forward, one grounded in customer reality.
Indeed. If you found this deep dive helpful and you want to keep exploring these kinds of critical topics relevant to media, tech, and SaaS leadership,
then please do consider liking this session and subscribing to Success Beyond Borders.
we really appreciate you tuning in and joining us for this exploration.
Thanks for listening.